I don't look for the pennies. I don't look for the dollars. I don't look that. I look at lives, and the lives need to be saved from this thing that we call addiction. It's not about putting the money into my pocket. It's about opening or keeping the doors open to Faith Farm and generating revenue so another man can come into the program to get himself right.
Ex-addict finds God in books. I'm here with Ryan Well and Max, who I've known for years. And Ryan has built an Amazon Books business that is doing $30,000 in the last 30 days in sales, which is super, super impressive. Most people don't make it that far. And there's a very interesting story how this came about. And I will let Max actually start. You were telling me behind the scenes about how you guys met. I think this is going to give so many golden nuggets to people out there. And hopefully Ryan will inspire people as well who are dealing with addictions and overcoming that and really building a business that is also addicting. Max, you were saying we can make a play on words from being a drug addict to being an addict to books, but super inspiring what you've done, Ryan. And Max, if you want to give a brief little backstory on how all this came about, because I do think a lot of
this is a convergence of many lives that are affecting many lives in the most positive light that I've ever encountered in my half a century of life. Ryan works for a company, a church called Faith Farm Ministries, which has 3 campuses in South Florida. I was a frequent book hunter, book scouter at the Fort Lauderdale campus, which Ryan is at right now. And I was shopping there for many years, looking for books and reselling online. And one day I just by happen chance saw a gaylord of books on a forklift going to a building I'd never seen before. And so I started asking questions to some of the employees about that. And the first twist of this interesting story is I know, Avery, you've always made videos about how to get backroom access and showcasing backroom access. Well, the backroom access that I got with Faith Farm Ministries took over a year of phone calls of me being persistent, asking questions, and finally getting inside the door of a meeting room where I met the pastors of Faith Farm after almost a year and a half, and convincing them of what you already know, Avery, that the book business is a great business to be in. I wasn't particularly keen that they were capitalizing on what they had. And I was using my consignment business as a way to find the paper gold, as we know, go through the gaylords, and on a consignment deal, make money for both Faith Farm Ministries and for my business, Common Ground Finds. And so it took me a year and a half to get backroom access. And the next twist of this story is it didn't last long before the relationship of me just picking books out of gaylords turned into more of what I would say is a consulting relationship now with Faith Farm Ministries. And I'm there 4 or 5 days a week working with Ryan very closely and building a phenomenal eBay and Amazon and media business for Faith Farm Ministries, which is, like you just showcased, did $30,000 just last month. When I first got up there, this hurts me to say it, and I know Ryan's going to laugh when I say this, they weren't even doing sell back your book. They were getting all of these book donations, and 99% of what was coming in before I stepped up to that second floor was just getting recycled. They weren't looking for books without barcodes where their money was. They weren't doing sell back your book. And then when Ryan came into the picture, everything just clicked in a beautiful relationship between Ryan and I and Faith Farm Ministries. And I want Ryan to definitely share his story here, but there's a lot of different levels to this story.
Mm-hmm. Let's hear a little bit about you, Ryan, and how you got into this, and maybe take a step back to the addiction and how you overcame that, because that's super, super impressive.
For sure. So in 2015, I was addicted to heroin and methamphetamines pretty bad my whole life for 20 years, and I finally made a decision to try to commit suicide. Long story short, I put enough drugs in a syringe to try and off myself, and in an encounter, I encountered a a God moment. I didn't see white lights or nothing like that, or I didn't meet Jesus or nothing like that, but there was just a sense in my heart that said, that I have a purpose, and that this purpose I might not understand right now. But obviously today I understand my purpose because it's here doing this right now with the books and creating revenue for our campus. I went through the program right after that suicide attempt, and for the past 2 years, from 2015 to 2018, I was a student at the program in Okeechobee campus. There's one in Boynton Beach, and there's one in Fort Lauderdale. I am currently right now working for the Fort Lauderdale campus, teaching and preaching the Word of God and our campus, and just creating a safe environment for other men like me who dealt with addictions. Just a safe place so where you can really, not have to worry about food or where you're going to sleep or where you're going to do the next day. We create jobs, work access for the students to not have to worry about what's really going on in a physical way. And so what that creates is the emotional aspect of looking inside and seeing, why we use and why we do the things that we do, hurt loved ones and this, that, and the other, because it's all selfish. So Faith Farm gave me and other men the opportunity to truly get to know God and see themselves for who they were created to be. We aren't drug addicts. We're sons of God that have incapabilities of registering emotions. That's why we try to block them up with drugs and alcohol. And it gave me a way out. Long story short, in that too, working for Faith Farm for 4 years, and the 5th year, I was hired into the book business of Amazon sales, and that's where I met Max.
Mm-hmm.
First thing off with Max, I thought he was out of his mind. I thought he was out of control, man. I'm like, this guy don't know what he's talking about. And honestly, Max has been the pivotal launching pad and shift for the book business here at Faith Farm Ministries to create revenue. The ideas and the things that he has, the knowledge that he has as books is extraordinary. I have come under Max as a kind of I look at Max as a mentor in the books, not only a mentor with books, but relational wise too.
Mhm.
And we've built something here that started from absolutely nothing. We used to throw all of our books. Honestly, we would get them shredded and make pennies per pound for all of our books.
Don't tell Avery that. He's going to start.
That killed Max. He's like, "What are you guys doing?" And I'm like, I met Max, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing because I know zero about books.
Mm-hmm.
I said they just put me here because honestly, God told them to put me here and that this was going to be a good thing. And my leaders were right. They seen something in me and wanted to create something new and different that creates this revenue for more men to come in the program.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a nutshell,
to help more men.
That's what it's all about. Our ministry is, I don't look for the pennies. I don't look for the dollars. I look at lives and the lives that need to be saved from this thing that we call addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about putting the money into my pocket. It's about opening or keeping the doors open to Faith Farm and generating revenue so another man can come into the program to get himself right. And for one man to enter the program, just to put a number on it, it's roughly about $40,000 to $50,000 for that year for that man to have what he needs in the program.
Mm-hmm.
So that's expensive, and
I
gets,
know. I had a friend that went to Minnesota for rehab. His parents were really well off, and I don't even know if he was ever that bad, but he would do like cocaine on the weekends, and it was a problem. Like it was definitely bad, but I don't know if he was probably using by himself a lot too. Like it was bad. And so his parents sent him up there, and it was something crazy, like 40 grand for a few days, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think in your program? I know you can't summarize it in a few sentences on a YouTube video, but what is like the premise of your teachings, because I'm a big believer that like in entrepreneurship,
Right.
and just in life, it's similar. It's like a 12-step process in entrepreneurship just to get your fucking head straight and like focus and not be distracted by the phone or the woman in the red dress or XYZ, and just like not get derailed by all the emotion that comes with business. Like, what do you think is like the primary thing they teach or facilitate in order to stop addiction?
Well, the main thing is relationships with other people, and then a relationship with God. Not getting into the religious cycle. This is not a religious thing. By any means are we a religious organization, even though we're labeled that. It's a personal relationship with Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And in that, we created a community that fosters relationships, consistency, the wanting to change and to evolve into something new and different every day, just like a business. It's just like a personal attribute that you want or a goal that you set. If there's no consistency, there will be no change. You'll just keep getting the same thing. If you're not willing to take a risk in your life and a risk in your business, nothing's going to change. If anything, it'll get worse. So that number one thing would be relationships with people and a relationship with God and consistency.
Yeah. Relationships. Yeah. That's huge. Just in entrepreneurship, who you surround yourself with, who you compare yourself to, what's normal to you, how much money are your friends making?
Yeah.
It's very similar to, it sounds like, the addiction process. If all your friends are doing drugs, it's probably very hard to stop. And if all your friends are doing XYZ, making money, for me, it's like, it's crazy. Max, I talked to you like 5-6 years ago now.
Don't make me that old, Avery. Don't you dare make me
I'm
that
old, bro. I'm almost 30. I was coaching Max back then. Hindsight, I kind of see what you're doing there. You were trying to get in with the community, or maybe I did help you out, but you definitely knew your stuff back then too. You weren't like a complete newbie when I did my coaching call with you. But this is like 6 years ago or 5 years ago. I'm talking to Max on the phone, coaching him about. I didn't know what I told you. Do you remember?
Which one?
I don't even remember. There was multiple. I just remember talking.
Our first conversations was always about rank and e-score.
Gotcha. Okay, so you were like new to Amazon.
I was coming from the non-barcode world, and you were
right. Just so you guys have context of Max. Max has sold like, what's the biggest sale you've done? Like 40,000 worth of golf books, or 30,000 worth of golf books in a day.
I just on Tuesday I had a $12,000 day.
Yeah. So Max, he's a rare book collector. For all the people on YouTube watching him right now, go follow him.
Not a collector, a seller. I don't collect that.
Looks like it's your collector.
Yeah.
He's always getting on me. He's like, you got to move it. Why are you holding on? It's got to go.
and don't let Ryan kid you. Ryan is a bookseller, and he understands the market. And Ryan, what are we, over a year and a half together now?
I think a year and a half.
Yeah, and we treat Faith Farm Media, we treat the business like a business. Ryan and I make goals for the business. We project where we want things to be in 3 months, 6 months. We're doing all the same things that I would be doing in my Common Ground Finds business. We treat Faith Farm that way. It's such an amazing thing, because you have 3 campuses, Avery, funneling all of their books to the Fort Lauderdale campus. So Ryan and I, we were doing it this morning. Ryan and I he was at one side of a Gaylord, I was at the other side, and we were just going through it, having fun and talking business as we were doing it.
I think that's huge. And that's kind of what I was harping at, was like, me and you, we built that relationship with each other back then via the coaching. And then now, like, all of my friends are either millionaires or they're younger and they're on their way to being millionaires, like in the Amazon space. And it's pretty crazy just to like look around and be like, holy shit, this is all relationships. And it's, your friends keep your head straight. If they're doing, if they're locked in, if they're doing things right, then you have no reason to even think of veering off the path. But if all your friends are doing something wrong, I think that is probably one of the most powerful things, at least to stay focused. And it sounds like for addiction too. Is there anything else maybe that, like mentally or spiritually, that maybe like their relationship with God. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how does that help with addiction?
Yeah. So in the program, and not only in the program, but the spiritual side of it, obviously I spoke about it, it is Jesus. And I said personal relationship, and
Yeah.
the Bible is the most monumental thing and the most historical thing and the best-selling book of all times. It is every year.
Yeah.
And you guys can't argue with that as booksellers.
Mhm.
So what I want to present is a personal relationship. So we teach the men and the ways of the program. We gave them that time, the time to be able to reflect and look emotionally. Most of the men in addiction are stuck in an age between 6 to 5 years old emotionally. And so what we do is we allow and empower the Holy Spirit of getting the men saved and bringing them back into their past and reiterating and redefining the thought process of what happened. Maybe that's some trauma that happened in their past. Maybe there was some kind of wound. Maybe somebody said something to them. Maybe there was abuse in their life, and we literally invite Jesus into those areas of their lives to shine a different life, utilizing the truth of the written word, the Bible, and the community as men, loving on these guys like they've never been loved before. You know, like correction. How often do men don't like correction, but we need it. You know, even in the book business, you know, if you see one of your, like you were talking about, Avery, one of your friends making decisions that just aren't lining up, you're like, hey man, what are you doing? Your decisions you're making right now they're going to make a heavy impact in your business in a negative way. Now, whether that man receives that word that you spoke to him, whether you know God or not, was a good word, you know, from your heart, moralistically, from your heart, saying, hey man, I care about you and I want your business to succeed. Well, it's the same thing in the recovery business. It's the same thing in the recovery world, contributing to the fact of Christianity. It's exactly the same thing. It's just one's moral and the other one's godly, you know? And then, so in that we get ourselves and the men to contribute to the farm, because the doors aren't going to keep open by themselves.
Yeah.
They just not. And so the men will work. They work literally to, you know, to how would you say this? To cooperate with Faith Farm.
Yeah.
And really what happens is God uses their addiction to set them up for their future, so they can be regenerated with their wives, their family, with their kids. You know, we deal with a lot of homelessness. Attribute or things that had happened in the lives of these men. A lot of them are homeless and don't have nowhere to stay, and they just need a place to where they can get right with the Lord. And so we teach them a journaling format. So it's literally a journal that has an outline of asking thanks, get or picking out some things in their life that may be negative, that's not good, and literally sitting down in the morning for 45 minutes, talking to God.
Yeah. I think that's so powerful. And hopefully we haven't lost everyone who's not religious. I know a lot of times, like I
get it,
who weren't religious, but
they'll stay tuned. We got 3 good minds right here.
I would like to present to people who maybe aren't religious listening to this, just to think of the fact that it is like the #1 selling book, and maybe there is some wisdom in it. And if you only take it as, because I am Christian, but if you only take it as a book that was written thousands of years ago and it is still around today, and you actually read it, particularly the words that Jesus said, it is crazy. It's like having like a best friend. If you only read the words that Jesus said, that literally, like, in my opinion, have like the best moral code of any book I've read, whether it's like Eastern philosophy. Not that any of those books are wrong, but like, look at what the Bible says. It says, treat others how you wish to be treated. You know, the golden rule. There's, you reap what you sow. You were just talking about that. Like, you reap what you sow. Those people in the morning for 45 minutes having a conversation with God, writing everything down that maybe is negative or bad in their life, the actions they're taking on a daily basis, you're going to reap what you sow. And it's the same thing in a business. You're going to reap what you sow. If you go screw people over, you might make some money in the short run, but in the long run, you are going to sow what you reaped, and the Eastern philosophy talks about this as karma. And I believe it's the same exact thing, so I would invite people to, and I love looking to the Bible as just like, it's just like a rock of solid advice. And I feel like, it says, God says, you shall have no other gods before me. And I think, and it also says, and these two are related, it's harder for a rich man to get into heaven than it is for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle.
That's right.
And I thought about this a lot over the last couple of years and what it means, particularly in business. And I think what it means is like, if you're so obsessed with material possessions, that then becomes your God.
Yes.
So now your God is no longer God who's telling you to follow the 10 commandments and treat others how you want to be treated and love and all this. All of a sudden now your God is material things.
Right.
So then it's harder for you to get into heaven, just like it says, the only way into heaven is to become like a child, something like that. It's the same thing. Children don't care about all these material possessions. I think, at least for me in my business over the last 5 years, I've noticed the times I'm most miserable is when I put the game of material possessions at the utmost highest, and then that temporarily becomes my God. And I think it's important to, take a step back and kind of look at like, kind of center yourself on what's really, really important and not get sidetracked by the world and material things, And so I think even if you're not religious, like just looking at the Bible and like the things it says are really remarkable, just a few of these phrases from the Bible you could ponder on for a very long time. You reap what you sow, treat others how you want to be treated. There's 100 different other ones, but anyway, I invite people.
I love that we got Avery not talking about books for 2 minutes.
There's a value that's in it. And like, I wasn't raised up in church. I was religious by no ways. And like, it's just a relationship. And quite honestly, I was like, at first I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. This is like, this isn't for me, But then again, I started seeing that the men around me were starting to help me. And I'm like, well, why would they help me and do the things that they do every day? I know they ain't making a lot of money. Like, what is going on here? And it got me to question. I said, what is real? And then honestly, what really got me to believe in Jesus, and Jesus says this, he says, there's only one way to the Father, and it's through me. And then so I was like, all right, if this is real, give me a sign. And then so 2 weeks before I said that, I had a shoulder injury. I was in a sling and everything. And then so we're sitting in church one day, and the pastor stops preaching, and he says, hey, somebody's shoulder hurts. If your shoulder hurts, I want you to come to the front. God is going to heal you. I'm like, yeah, right. I'm like, this is it. I'm going to go up, and this is going to be hocus pocus. I'm leaving the program. If this doesn't work, I'm out of here. And believe it or not, I don't care who you are or what you think or what you've believed in your life. When I went up there and he prayed for me, my shoulder supernaturally healed and there was no pain. And then so that was like okay, I guess this is real for me. And then my suicide attempt. And then so those two things are like, yeah, let's do it. So crazy.
Yeah, it's because I've been listening to like audio book about, it's only got the quotes that Jesus says. You just hear his words over and over again. And well, I don't know if Jesus said this one, but he said the next one. One of the things in the Bible is like, only give out of the kindness of your heart. And my church taught me that growing up. And when it comes to the book business, I feel phony if I bring coffee to a library and I don't want to give them coffee. So instead, what I do is like, can I just find like 1% of me that wants to give this coffee to maybe this girl who's smiling or this old guy or whatever? And I usually can't. If I don't, then I don't like to give. And I think that's such a strong thing, is like only give out of the kindness of your heart, because that's like the Bible's literally telling you to be authentic.
Yeah.
And don't have altruistic motives to get something, like don't manipulate people. And something else it says is don't pray in front of other people so that they may see you pray.
Yeah.
How Jesus said that? How crazy is that? Like, our God doesn't want us to like showboat and like, get in front of people and like, oh, look, I'm praying. Like, look at me, I'm praying. Like. And I think even if you just look at the book from the perspective of like, it was a book written 2,000 years ago and you read it, like, I think a lot of people would be awestruck by like the wisdom that's in it versus how derailed we can get talking with people who are, you know, being caught up in the whole world today with everything in regards to politics, marketing. Like, your brain can get pretty screwed up pretty fast by, in my opinion, making everything else your God, you know? So any last words? We got a few minutes here. Actually, 1 minute.
There's currently about 6 other gentlemen who are in the program who come up and work in the books. One gentleman doing Amazon, another one, one or two, depending on the day, doing shipping, another 1 or 2 doing scanning for Amazon and Sell Back Your Book and all the other platforms. So it's such a wide cast net of people learning the book business, and through books and through the beautiful mission that Faith Farm does. You know, I always say that the book business can change lives. Well, I really see it changing lives when I spend my mornings at Faith Farm Ministries.